A hobby is something you do because you enjoy. Collecting is something you do because you feel you have to do.
Star Wars gave the world collectibles, action figures, toys, to the scale that no one had ever seen before. When Batman came out, it was the first superhero to really do the same thing.
I don't want to get into Batman collecting. I don't want to do it, but it looks so great. The logos are appearing here, they're appearing there. And I thought, oh, one item will be all right. And another item will be, I'll buy the board game and I'll play the board game, which was complete crap, but I did it anyway. And I'll buy this other thing and I'll buy that other thing. And with Batman, it really just took over.
And it would just must have bat symbol, bat item.
Batman nightlight, Batman dressing gown.
Badges, frisbees, cans of drink.
I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that. Whatever I see, Batman cufflinks, doesn't even matter what it is, Batman boat. I have to have it. How grouse is that? Purely because this is what I do. It was out of control.
I still find things I've never seen before.
Hey, you bought that? I bought this.
I go, wow, I didn't know you had that.
Either I have it, or if I can't have it, I have to have a reason why I can't have it. I want to buy, I want to acquire. It was an addiction. I'll have this one, I'll have that one, I'll have that. I couldn't help myself. Mad, I've still got them. I hate them.
Who has a Batman room? Nobody. But Dags does.
It's only when you look back on it, you can go, oh, that really wasn't a smart move. But you can't switch it off. That's the thing. You can't put it down and walk away. It just doesn't work that way. It's pretty obsessive when you think about it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. My name's Joe Vanourney. Happy Batman Week. Not only do we have a new Batman film in the theater from Matt Reeves, but there's a new documentary that's Batman-centric that will be available on March 8th on your streaming platforms. It's called Batman and Me. Darren Maxwell began collecting Batman merchandise in the late 80s, Australia, as a way to be part of the blossoming geek culture. Decades later, Darren stuck with a room full of collectibles, a membership card to a fandom that he no longer recognizes, yet powerful forces beyond his control mean he is unable to let go. Michael Wayne, no relation to Bruce, is the director and writer of the film, along with Andrew Martin and Rebecca Richardson. And Michael and Darren are both with us today to talk about Batman and Me. Michael, Darren, welcome to Cherry the Geek TV.
Thanks very much, Joe. Great to be here.
So, Darren, Michael, I know that you kind of discovered Darren through his website about Batman, his collection. We'll start with Darren. Talk about this website. What was the website? What was on the website? What did Michael look at when he had looked at your website? What was he seeing there?
Yeah, so I set up the website almost 20 years ago, and of course I've had the collection since the 1990s. And when I finally got it all unboxed and put into a room in about 2003, I thought, well, I'll put a website together because I already had the domain name already set up. And but I thought, well, I'm not just going to gloss over everything as being the greatest thing in the universe. Oh, I got all these items, absolutely love them. I thought I'd be quite honest about it. And I thought, well, there's no need to sort of like sugarcoat everything. If there are items that I didn't like, and there were items I didn't like, I would say so. So unlike maybe a lot of websites which have collections on them, where people say, well, I've got this and I've got that, and look how good I am. I was the complete opposite. I said, well, these items are rubbish. These items are crap. These items I do like. And that's what I think appealed to Michael, because they were so frank and honest. That was probably a little bit sort of difficult for some people to accept as well. But I thought, well, yeah, I'm not going to lie about it. If there are things that I don't like, I'm going to say so.
And Michael, is that what stuck out to you when you went to that website? Was that he was being negative towards his items?
Oh yeah, I mean the honesty. A lot of collectors are all about showcasing at all times. Even when they're talking about it, they're presenting it in a way that's top notch. But that there was this honesty and this brutal honesty about how mediocre a lot of the stuff was. That was interesting to me. I thought that's just not something that collectors do. So what was this guy's deal? I had to know more.
So you reach out to Darren. What was that conversation? You call him up. You say, "What? I saw your website. I want to come talk to you."
I was lucky in that Darren had been a filmmaker himself. He'd made a few short films. He was quite across all that technically. So when I got in touch with him, I said, "Oh, look, I've made a few shorts. So I'm interested in doing this as a short." He was on board with it, because I think a lot of people who aren't in that world will be sort of wary of that and think, "Oh, what are you going to do? What's this all about?" I did think that if he had been a really sort of insular, introverted person, as some fans can be, I thought it wouldn't have worked. But when I got on the phone with him, I couldn't get a word in. He was just telling me everything there was to know about it all. That was fascinating. I thought, this is going to work. I think there's something in this.
So, Darren, what was your take on that? You get this phone call from Michael. He says he wants to come talk to you. What was going through your head? Strangers calling me up.
So, yeah, because it's a little bit trippy because he lives in Sydney. So he's about 1,000 kilometers away from where I am, which is about 700 miles. And it was just this random guy calls up out of nowhere. And he says, I saw the website and I'm really interested about making a documentary. And I've done these shorts. And he showed me the shorts. But when he came down here for the first time, I thought, well, him and the guy could be an axe murderer as far as I'm concerned. So I had to arrange for one of my friends, who were MPS, Peter Sims, who appears in the movie as well, to come along as well as a bit of backup, just in case Michael turned out to be a bit of a freaky dude, as it were. But no, it was all good. He turned up and he was really, really interested in making the whole film. And I showed him the room and everything like that. But I did think at the time, I thought, would anybody be interested in seeing something like this? Hearing about one person's collecting experience, even though I'd finished like 20 something years prior. So I thought, well, all power to you, Michael. If you're happy to do it, then go for it. But as to whether it'll get an audience and people would be interested in it, that I wasn't sure of. But anyway, here we are today.
You know what? When he invited me down, I was talking to my friends up here about that, and they said, "What if he's some sort of axe murderer and you go down there and you just get killed and we never see you again?" So, well, whatever. Got to do what you got to do.
So how early you knew right away before you even went down there that you were going to make the film, or did you want to talk to him first? Like what point in the process, how far along was it before you were like, yeah, this is going to be a film. This is going to be a feature film.
Initially it was going to be a short because I didn't think I thought it's enough to just look at some of this stuff, get these sort of cynical takes on why he'd gotten it and what it was for and what it meant to him. I had to see the room before we did anything, though. I had to go down there and see it. And when I was there, when we were talking about it, it did start to feel like there was a bit more to it. So I sort of went down there that first time, checked it all out. We came back with a proper crew 6 months later or so, and that's when we really started to get into it with the proper questions and everything like that. And then it started to take shape as the more we'd get from Darren's answers.
How many times did you go down and visit him, and over how long of a period of time?
We went down 3 times in total, and that was over the space of about 3 years. So we would go down there, we'd ask a big bunch of questions, we'd come back and start editing, and we think we could get a bit more out of that point, but we should push a bit more on that, see what else there is there, because I think there's a bit more to it. And Darren was very gracious. He would have us every time. He never complained. He never sort of went, "Oh, come on." He was very open, and that it was the honesty and the openness that was there from the start that enabled us to do what we did all the way through.
Darren, give people a background kind of on the beginnings of your collecting. I know a lot of people grew up in the 1970s. I think Star Wars collectibles was probably the beginning. I think that's at least for pop culture collecting, it all kind of began with Star Wars. Is that true for you as well? Did it start with Star Wars?
My interest in the whole science fiction pop culture community started with Star Wars, but I was only 10 years old when the first film came out in 1977. But by the time we got to the mid-1980s, I was part of a large sort of sci-fi fan community here in Australia. And as it turned out, a lot of people were collecting a lot of different things, and they became identified with those things. And even though my first love was Star Wars, I couldn't compete against one of my best mates who actually had a fantastic Star Wars collection. I thought, well, I can't sort of go down that path, even though I was interested in a lot of the things that he had. So I started off effectively with Star Wars and Star Trek movie posters. But I thought, my mate is collecting those as well, so I can't compete with him. So I eventually moved into science fiction soundtrack LPs for movies that in some cases I'd never even seen. And I became the soundtrack movie guy to all my friends, which was my identity for who I was in the community. And then, of course, as the years rolled on, Once Batman came out, I became the Batman guy. But I was surrounded by all these people as part of this community, so I wasn't sort of operating on my own, and I needed something for them to identify me with, and that was it.
What was the moment that you became the Batman guy? Was there an item that you saw? Was there a specific moment that you said, "Oh, I'm going to start collecting Batman"?
Well, originally I didn't want to, and that was the problem, because I'd seen what had happened in the past, especially with Star Wars collectors, because there was so much stuff, even produced from the 70s and the 80s. And when Batman came out here, remembering the internet didn't exist yet, so this is just what we saw in stores. And there were items everywhere, and the logo was so appealing, and the imagery was so appealing, and the iconography was so appealing. I was consciously aware that I didn't want to do it. So I ended up buying a couple of items, and I ended up using those items, even though it was completely pointless. But because I thought in my mind, I don't want to go down this path. But it got to a point where I just said, oh, this stuff is just so great. I want to buy it, but I don't want to use it. I want to keep it mint in box effectively. And that's then when I shifted from being just a casual buyer to a collector. And once that switch was flipped, that was it. I went down the path, and everybody then recognized me as the Batman guy. And as a consequence, everybody turned their Batman interests or their attention towards me to say, well, I've seen these items here, I've seen these items there. And that was it. So being part of the community sort of helped the collection flourish.
So let's talk about your collection for a moment. I know people watch the trailer; they might have spotted some of the items, but kind of give people a sense of some of the things that are in the collection, and maybe some of your top 2 or 3 favorites. What are some of the highlights?
Well, the good thing I've got is that everything I have is still mint in box. So items that were considered probably ordinary at the time are now looked upon as being, wow, you still got those, like a Batmobile Scalextrics car, which I've still got mint in box, and a kind of car racing set, which looks like it was produced yesterday from Batman Returns. Quality is that good. But clearly the rarest and the most unique thing I have is a chocolate Batmobile from 1992, which is 30 years old as of today, mint in box, living in the butter drawer of my refrigerator. And that's still there. And that's something that a lot of people have a lot of interest in.
Michael, what was your take when you first walked into the Batman room and then spending time in there? What were some of the items that he had that impressed you? Where you're like, wow, this item here is pretty cool.
Well, it looked better than the pictures on the website. Getting in there, I thought, wow, like you do feel overwhelmed because there is so much of it. It's just so everywhere, and you get a sense of the versatility of the character, that they're able to make it work on so many different types of merchandise, and it's still sort of acceptable as Batman. Like, yeah, okay, Batman torches and stuff, that's going to work. I think in the film we got Batman sunscreen. No. So it was good in that way. It was impressive in that way, but because it was all still in the packet, the feeling of nostalgia and all that wore off pretty quick, because you couldn't do any more than look at it. You had to sort of look at it, and then you'd say to Darren, well, how'd you get that? He'd say, I don't know, just got it and bought it and put it in here and moved on. And so that sort of took a bit of the shine off it.
So that's one of the things that kind of differentiates Darren from a normal collector. You've talked to some of the other collectors in the film. A lot of people who collect things, they have a love for it, a passion. Darren, you and one of the things I like about you, Darren, is you're kind of self-aware. You're like, I'm not really that interested in Batman. I know if I start collecting it, it's gonna lead me down this path, and I'm not really even that passionate about Batman per se. Michael, what stuck out about Darren and that differentiated him? Is it the fact that he was self-aware and
it was the lack of passion around Batman, and the fact that he was so honest about it, that you could say, it doesn't really sound like you're really that into Batman. He'd say, well, I'm not really. I've got Star Wars as my thing, and not really Batman. But the living the contradiction of having that conversation in a room that costs so much time and money to create, this room full of stuff, and then to be told, I'm not that into it. That's the duality of at the heart of any Batman story.
there's a fine line between collecting and hoarding. I don't think that I would say that Darren, you're a hoarder. It seems like that the Batman room is pretty organized. It seems like the outside of that room is normal, clean, spacious. So this is not really a hoarding thing, right?
No.
And it's
No,
not
definitely
really
hoarding.
it's not
Yeah.
really a. Is it obsessive? Is it addiction? Is it an addiction? What? How would you categorize?
Yeah, it wouldn't be classed as hoarding because hoarders don't really care about the quality or the condition of what they've got. From my perspective, I was into the quantity of items, not the quality. And that's a huge difference for a lot of people. Most people go out who collect things, buy the things that they like and they enjoy them and they're pleased by them. And as was mentioned about, can mention the history of where these items came from. For myself, I was just looking at grabbing items to boost the numbers. And the problem with that is that one, I was buying stuff that really was quite rubbishy, and also things that I didn't even like. So that was how my brain worked at the time. So I would be hunting around all the shops. I would just see a Batman item on even a block of wood, and I'd go, well, I have to have that because it's got a Batman item. It's a collectible. And in my brain, I'm thinking, well, if I leave it mint in a box, decades from now, it'll be worth a lot of money. And of course, a lot of the stuff isn't. But that's how I saw it. So even a normal person, in inverted commas, would buy some of these things and go, well, I don't mind this. I'll take it out of the packet and I'll use it and I'll, do whatever with it. I was the complete opposite. And even things that came from, like, say, Kentucky Fried Chicken, like really, really cheap plastic bags, the really, really crappy items, I would leave them that way and I still wouldn't open them. So I worked on the view that at some point down the track, some of this stuff, if not all of it, is going to be a massive investment. And that was just a lie to myself, because clearly a lot of it isn't, and I actually work part-time in a collectible store that a friend of mine runs, a pop culture collectible store. And some of the items that I have are actually in his store from other collectors, and they're still worthless, even today, after decades. And so I know that. But at the time, my brain just wouldn't allow me to say, oh, no, stay away from this stuff because it is just rubbish. For me, it was about quantity, because quantity impresses people. They walk into a place, they see all this stuff, and they go, wow, that is fantastic. Even if they analyze it and they realize all of it's, or most of it, is rubbish.
Michael, did you ever collect anything in your lifetime as a kid, as a teenager, in your 20s?
Yeah, as a kid, I had toys and some comics, but more toys. And it was the process of going to the toy shop with a family member and having to convince them that you needed one more, that it was, oh, no, I've got a lot of toys, yeah, and I've got other Ninja Turtles that look like that. But it's different and you got really good at having to make the case every time for why you should have a new one. And then you'd get it, and you'd love it, and you'd put it away with the rest of them, and then you'd be back out there a couple of weeks later saying, but I need this one as well. So I did understand where he was coming from, where Darren was coming from, about the process of going out there, looking for the one you needed, because you'd have to go through all the shelves to find, I need this one, not that one. I've already got that one. Understand, Grandma. And you'd get it, and I understood where he was coming from. And I think you had to have, I didn't want it to feel, for him, I didn't want it to feel like here's this crew just coming to sort of analyze him and treat him like some sort of specimen. I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted him to know that we were coming from a place where we understood what he was about, where he was coming from, and I wanted that to help him feel a bit more comfortable in what we were doing.
As a viewer, I kind of related to you too, Darren. When I was a kid, I started collecting movie ads out of the newspaper. I'd cut out movie ads and I'd have them in scrapbooks, and then that led to collecting movies and TV shows. I would record every show on television. I'm not exaggerating. I probably had at one time 30,000 videotapes full of television programs. But I think everybody, as you grow older, and this is a question to both of you, do you think the compulsion to collect, to own, kind of dissipates naturally as one gets older, as one kind of sees your mortality, and that you only have so many years in your life, and then, like, what am I doing with my time? What am I doing with my money?
Most people, I think you'll find when they start collecting, they do it when they're younger. So in my case, and I don't think I'm the only one, you move out of home, you're single, you start a new job, you got a disposable income, you got money coming in, and you go, what do I need to spend it on something? I've finally got money, I'm independent. You go out and you start buying. And that's where collections for the most part start. The problem is that as the decades roll on, the single person suddenly becomes hooked up with a partner. They end up buying a house with a mortgage. They start having a family. And as a consequence, collections end up taking a back seat because of all these other priorities, which makes a lot of sense too. Mm-hmm. So either one of two things can happen. Either the collection slows down and eventually it gets discarded in whatever way that happens to be, or the person collecting it says to their partner, the family, whoever else, this is what my life is. This is really important to me, and they'll continue with it accordingly. The trick is whether the other half, the partner, supports it or just accepts it. And if they just accept it, that means they're saying, well, I don't like it, but if that's what you're going to do, then go ahead and do it. But if they support it and they encourage it, then that's a completely different thing. So from a collecting point of view, if you're collecting from when you start as a young person and you are able to go throughout the decades in your life and have all the support from your friends and your family and whatever else, yeah, good for you. But a lot of people don't get that. And in the end, their collections have to be offloaded. And that's the reason why you see a lot of them get sold up.
Michael, one of the interesting things about your film is that you have recreate conversations and incidents that happen that you don't have footage of. You take action figures and you kind of animate conversations using Star Trek figures and Star Wars figures and superhero figures. Talk about the genesis of that idea and how do you think that turned out overall in the context of the film?
Well, you want to, with any documentary, I think you want to avoid just talking heads if you can. And we get a lot of stories from Darren about his past and how he would do things. And we just tried it with one of them. We got some toys out as if children were playing with the toys with their hands in there, and we drew up some dodgy looking backgrounds to represent the places he was at. And we just acted them out. We thought it was funny to us. And the whole time we're making this, we wanted to make something that we wanted to see. It felt as if that collecting had been analysed, but it hadn't sort of been done in this kind of way. No one had started talking about the downsides of it or the risks that were there with pop culture collecting. So we wanted just to tell it our way. We thought that was amusing. And then we started to do a bit more of it. And we couldn't go past the poetic justice of telling the story of a man who kept all of his toys mint in box by taking toys out of the packet and having to do it that way. And I've still got the little, we had a toy each for Darren and his friend and his partner, and I've still got them all sitting on my desk staring at me all the time. It's unnerving.
How much of the budget went to buying, getting these figures?
More was spent on it than has been made back trying to sell them. You're right, they're not worth much. At one point in the film, you give Darren a still sealed in plastic. Is it you that gave him the game? The Batman? Okay. So how much does something like that find? Like I know Darren had spent years trying to find a sealed box. How easy was that for you to find? And was that pricey? Well, the benefit I had was that Darren has banned himself from eBay. So it occurred to me that maybe I should look for that. I wouldn't know what it would look like if we could give him this, because one of the first items he bought was this Batman board game. It was a dodgy sort of kids, cheaply made, generic kind of board game where they just slapped the Batman graphics on it. He said he had bought it, played the game, and then built the collection from there. But he was always miffed that he had this item that he'd opened. And for him, it was like if he walked into the Batman room, it would just stand out as, oh, I opened this one. He couldn't enjoy any of the rest of it because he'd just see that one thing he opened. What would happen if you could give him that, if you could find that? So I set up an eBay search, and eventually, miraculously, it just popped up, and it wasn't that expensive, but I just had to get it straight away. And giving him that really did transform the film. And I think the relationship between he and I, because it meant a lot. I think he could understand suddenly that it was a different kind of understanding I had of him, that I was able to give him that I thought about it that much and knew what that would mean to it and what it would mean to the film. Like it does add a different element to what's going on. It was a cool moment.
So The film wrapped when? When was the film completed? So I know it's been available for a few years. It's been playing the festival circuit. How long ago was the film completed?
Oh, I think about 2 weeks ago, we finally stopped doing stuff to it.
Okay.
It's just,
Well,
it's bounced around. We did finish it properly about 2019. But then we hit the festival circuit with the world's worst timing. We got into a fair few festivals and we weren't able to attend one of them, thanks to all the lockdowns and travel restrictions. We had to then make some legal changes to the film, because when you're dealing with someone else's IP, you've got to do different things to jump through certain hoops. We had to make a few changes then. So we've been sort of tweaking it, but it really was about 2019 when the narrative itself was done.
Darren, what was your reaction the first time that you saw the film, the completed film? Is it fair?
Yeah,
Think they treated you fairly?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you think they treated you fairly? Is it a fair depiction of your life and your collection and your?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and because it had taken so many years to make it, a lot of things I'd forgotten as to what I said, and it's like didn't remember any of it. So I was thinking, hopefully I don't come across the areas and I go, oh, jeepers, I don't agree with that statement anymore. But no, for the most part, it was actually quite good, and I really did like what he did with the action figures. I thought that was actually very amusing and came across really, really well. There was only a couple of things towards the end I realized, okay, there's a couple of things I've said there that could probably be misconstrued as me being critical about something, costumers and fandom and all that sort of thing. But that was just like the way people would interpret what I said. But no, I thought it came out quite good, considering I think I'm watching it really intently thinking, yep, I still agree with that. Yep, that still makes sense. Yep, I'm still okay with that. So I think he did really, really well with it. And it was good to see. So no, excellent.
Well, we're about out of time. Before we go, though, I just want to bring up there's a few new projects in the work. I know your background, Darren, that you are a Star Wars fan, and you had Dune. You were a Dune collector for a while, and then of course you're the Batman guy. Now that all of those franchises are kind of back and more powerful than ever, the Star Wars, the Mandalorian, and the Boba Fett, there's like quality Star Wars being made. The Dune movie, quality Dune movie. This new Batman movie's quality. There's a new Michael Keaton's coming back as Batman in the Flash movie. Do any of these things trigger anything like, oh, maybe I should get just one more Dune thing or one more Michael Keaton Batman? Anything triggered?
No, my time as a collector is well and truly finished, and my walls are up, and I'm glad too, because there's so much material out there, and some of the stuff is really high quality and it looks great and it's fantastic, but it comes with a price tag to boot. But no, I'm past my days now, and I'm glad, and I had a lot of fun at the time. So I mean, even though in hindsight, I look back and go, I've ended up with all this Batman stuff that I don't like, but the experience of getting it and the enjoyment I had and all the friends I made, I certainly don't regret any of that. But no, they can bring out as much as they want. Good luck to them. It is someone else's problem as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's a wonderful documentary. It's called Batman and Me. It's available on all the streaming platforms and digital platforms on March 8th. Michael, will there be a DVD, Blu-ray coming out as well?
There is a DVD. You'll be able to get the DVD at Amazon and Best Buy and Walmart, I think, online.
Any bonus
commentary? Yeah, it's got a commentary by Darren and NPS, which is very entertaining, and I think it's got a few other little bits in it, a few other little scenes with the toys.
Excellent. Well, Batman and Me, highly recommend it if you have any interest in collectibles, the art of collecting, and or Batman in general. Michael and Darren, thank you so much for joining us today on Cherry the Geek TV.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.
No problem. Take care.